Okay, these notes are covalent compounds, naming and writing formulas. The one thing you guys will realize is naming and writing formulas for covalent compounds is so much easier than ionic. You just have to know a few things. Okay, so binary, we're talking about 2 here. Okay, once again, binary is 2. Word binary. Covalent compounds are made up of 2 different nonmetals. Okay, so it's 2 nonmetals or a nonmetal and a metalloid. There are no metals. Okay, if you see a metal in the compound, it is not a covalent compound. Okay, metals do not form covalent compounds. They form ionic compounds. Okay, now, covalent compounds are named differently than ionic compounds. So there's a few steps you need to follow. Okay, now the first element, the very first one in the formula is always named first, using the entire element name. Like if it starts with O, then it's oxygen. If it starts with P, it's phosphorus. Okay, if it starts with AS, it's arsenic. That sort of thing. Now the second element is where you use the IDE, just like the ionic compounds. Okay, so if it ends in O, it's oxide. Okay. Now prefixes are used to indicate the number of atoms of each element. Oops. Of each element, each one. So you're going to use 2 prefixes because there's 2 elements. Binary means 2. So there's the first element and the second element. So you're going to use a prefix for both of them. Okay, so let's look at our prefixes. Now, 1 is mono. 2 is di. 3 is tri. Now, 4 is tetra. 5 is penta. 6 is hexa, or hexa, like a hexagon. 7 is hepta, like a heptagon. Heptagon. Whoops, sorry. It's hepta. This is not geometry here. But if you'll notice, the prefixes are a lot like geometry. The only one that's different, well, I don't think in geometry they have mono or di. But they don't have tetra. It's quadra. Or quadra, like a quadrilateral. But here, in chemistry, it's tetra. But penta, hexa, hepta. So guess what 8's going to be? Kind of like an octopus, you know, kind of, hint, hint, hint. It's octo. And then 9 is nona. And 10 is deca. Actually, it's octa in chemistry. OCTA. Okay, so kind of like in geometry. Now, the only time a prefix is not used, there's only one time when it's not used, is when there's just one of the first element. So if it starts out with P, say P, I don't know, I5, this would not be monophosphorus, okay? You start out this one right here, since there's only one, you just name it phosphorus. No mono in front of it. Okay, so let's look at this one. SO3. Now, there is but one sulfur. Let me move the slide up a little bit. Okay, so we're not going to name it monosulfur. So we're just going to name it sulfur. Now, there are 3 oxygens. See the little 3 right there? And the prefix for 3 is tri. Now, since it's the second element, we have to do with the IDE, so it's oxide. So this is sulfur trioxide. Pretty simple, huh? Okay, let's look at water. Okay, H2O. The scientific name is not water. What do you think it is? Well, let's look at H2O again. How many hydrogens are there? There are 2. So we're going to say dihydrogen. Now there is only one oxygen. So it's going to say monoxide or monoxide. Now the one thing with the oxygens, and I'm actually going to slip in a slide here. Oh, by the way, there's a funny website. You really got to check that out. In class tomorrow, I will show you this website. It is super hilarious. Okay, so there are, when you're dealing with the oxide, and it's only oxide, and you have to do a prefix, everything changes a little bit because you don't want to say monooxide. So I'm going to give you the prefixes with the oxide. So we'll call this oxygen and prefixes. Oops. Ooh, why did it go small? And prefixes. Okay, so the first one is monoxide. That means that there's just one O. Now, dioxide and trioxide are the same. They don't change at all. But now you have tetra. It is not tetraoxide. It's tetroxide. Same with penta. It's pentoxide. And then we got hexoxide. Because it's not going to be hexaoxide. It just doesn't sound right, I guess. Scientists decided they don't like that many syllables. So the next one is heptoxide. So you're going to do my writing. Oxide. Known oxide. And decoxide. Okay, so that's only with the oxygen for oxides. Even iodide, I thought it would maybe be monoiodide, but it's monoiodide. All of those are still the same. So it doesn't matter that it starts out with a vowel. It's only the oxides because I guess O and A sound too close together. They don't really want the two syllables. So whatever. That's what it is. Okay, so let's try to name the following compounds. So the first one we have is N2O and then NO2. I'm going to let you try to do them, try to name them, and then I'll do the answers on the next slide. Okay, so the first one was NO2, or no, it was N2O. Now there are two N's, so we're going to say dinitrogen, but there's only one O, so it's monoxide. Oops. I guess it would help if I could actually write. So dinitrogen monoxide. Now the second one was NO2. So you should have gotten, since there's one N only, nitrogen. Now remember, we don't put the mono in front because it's the first one. And then there's two oxygens, so it's nitrogen dioxide. Hopefully you got those right. Okay, at this point you should be able to name CO. Well, it's carbon monoxide. That poisonous stuff that can kill you. And CO2 you better know by now. I mean, just from biology. And of course that's carbon dioxide. Okay, we can actually use the name to write the formulas. Because basically the prefixes tell us how many of each element is in the compound. So let's look at the first one. First one we have phosphorus. Well, there's no prefix, so we know there's just one. Remember, on the first one, if there's no prefix, it means there's one. Now, trichloride. Tri is 3, so it's 3 chlorines. So PCl3. Okay, so let's look at the next one. We got disulfur, so that means there's 2 sulfurs. And then tetroxide. Now I know there's no A next to it, but if you remember when we were doing the prefixes for oxide, the A gets dropped. So it's tetroxide, means 4 oxygens, so it's O4. Pretty easy so far, right? Okay, let's try a couple more. So we've got phosphorus pentabromide. Okay, so phosphorus means there's 1 P. Penta is 5. Bromide is bromine, so PBr5. Next one, diphosphorus, 2 phosphoruses. And trioxide means 3 oxygens. pretty easy. Hopefully this is about as, well, this is about as hard as it gets as far as naming and writing formulas. I think you guys will get this one. Okay, let's look at this one. Arsenic tribromide. Whoops. Guess I should help if I put the pen on. Arsenic is AS. Tribromide, Br3. Then we have carbon tetrachloride. That's pretty much it. Guys, it really doesn't get any harder than this at all as far as naming and writing formulas. Obviously, with covalent bonding, we get into some harder stuff, but the naming and writing formulas, nah, this is it. So hopefully you guys got it. Tomorrow we'll do some warm-ups. Maybe win science books. You never know. Okay, well, everybody, have a good night, and I will see you tomorrow.